Good morning, students. Good morning, students. I guess all is going good. So, on that note, I will begin today's class. On that note, I will begin today's class. Right. So, as has been the trend, I'm gonna do yesterday's newspaper right now. So, I think I am able to hear my voice. So, I am comfortably able to hear my voice. So, let me begin with the presentation of the day. Right. So I'm going to start with the Hindu newspaper, as is the usual format. Uh, you can crack. Welcome everybody to Unacademy's YouTube channel. So I, of course, have been teaching for the last 2.5 months with Unacademy. It's been a wonderful experience. Though obviously the best part is interacting with students because I've been teaching for a decade, and I can tell you the biggest satisfaction is when you interact with young people and do something for their careers, help shape their careers. So this is Unacademy. We are India's largest e-learning platform. Now, of course, also associate sponsors in the IPL. I think I was watching that game yesterday, and it was so good to hear Unacademy cracking sixes. Every time there was some sixes, I could hear Unacademy's name. That's that feature, Unacademy cracking sixes. Was great to hear actually. So this is a profile of myself. My name is Aritro Dasgupta. As you are aware by now, I'll be taking general awareness for you guys. A very important subject, though often neglected by students who are appearing for the management exams, but it shouldn't be. So I'm an MBA in forest management from the Indian Institute of Forest Management in Bhopal. That was in the field of conservation and livelihood management. I've got a decade's experience, more than a decade, in fact, in the areas of teaching, training, strategy, consulting, and in content writing. My experience has predominantly been in India, but I've also worked in the Middle East and in North America. I've been published in North America, rather. My lectures have also been shown in classes in a university in Nigeria. Last 5 years, I've been extensively involved with the coaching industry, which is why rank holders to call exams such as CAT, CLAT, DU, JAT, etc., have been my students. Right. So what are you going to get from the Unacademy platform? First of all, you receive our course content is structured. It's very well structured from the head office itself, which is in Bengaluru. You get unlimited access to our classes once you are enrolled. So I don't tire of saying this that Unacademy is like the Netflix of education because you receive unlimited access to all the classes once you are enrolled. Uh, Right. There is also a feature known as live tests and quizzes. Now, this is something which is possible on unacademy.com, where I take special classes, where I have taken around 19 hours of classes this month. There are also daily live classes. So let me just show you these two features together. Let me just turn on to our YouTube page. तो राइट साइड में आप सभी को ये दिखेगा कि एक लाइव चैट विंडो है तो यहाँ पे लिखिए whatever you wish to whatever are your doubts I'll help you clear those. Apart from clearing the doubts, I will also help you with, I'll also be taking quizzes on the spot. I ask questions. So that really helps engage the audience, and students also learn a lot from these instant quizzes. Here you can see there is our channel which is called Crack Management Exam. So once you click on this, you will be able to view n number of सेशंस. so इसको प्लीज क्लिक कीजिए. इसमें आपको बहुत सारे सेशन दिखेंगे. जैसे राइट साइड में आपको दिख रहा होगा अभी एक और वर्बल का भी क्लास चल रहा है. So go through that, and likewise, there are several other features that you can avail on this platform. This is a list of some of our key educators. Mm, you can see the number of watch minutes and followers they all have. This will he- help you gauge their quality, as we don't tire of saying that learn from the best. That's what you get at Unacademy. There are live classes as well. This is a very important feature because so just to give you this is a notification on how you receive the classes. So जैसे किसी को अगर help चाहिए profit and loss पे, they can actually avail this class. Likewise, you also receive notifications for batches finishing and completing. ये नोटिफिकेशन दो तरीके का आ सकता है. नीचे अगर आप देखें, दैट इज फॉर वन सब्जेक्ट विथ वन एजुकेटर अलोन. On top, if you see, it is covering the entire syllabus. That is why there are n number of faculty members there, so you can take a look at all these options. Then, of course, you also have a schedule. I told you, even if you miss a live class, you can go through our sessions. Once you're enrolled, you can just even download sessions. All you need is a PC, a tablet, or a mobile phone. And we also do not believe in language as a hindrance, because we are available in 16 different languages. So you guys can communicate with us in any of those languages. Right? I told you how you can interact with the educator to get your doubts cleared. Even between classes, you can send us doubts on a sheet of paper as well. There are live polls as well. This is something which can be done on YouTube, but it's actually easier on unacademy.com. Besides these on-the-spot live polls, you also have centralized tests and quizzes, which covers the entire syllabus. It is a mock CAT, as we call it. That is the feature on the left-hand side. And once you give that test, you even receive a detailed report and analysis. So you will able to assess where exactly you stand and in which question are you truly good at. Right? There are also detailed PDFs and learning materials. So do go through all of that. Again, this is something which can be done on YouTube, but it's even easier on the special classes, right? Because as I said, these PDFs, they how can I put it? These PDFs, they are uh, that's very good material, basically. So in this today's class, it's the newspaper itself is the PDF, so there's no a separate thing to be downloaded. But in the classes, I've taken a lot of these current affairs sessions. I took April current affairs a couple of weeks back, the first of the three. So उसमें भी आप download करके आप पढ़ सकते हो. वहाँ पे unacademy.com में I have taken n number of sessions on such topics. I want all of you to read this particular slide. Look at both the sides of the picture. That will give you a very good idea on the pricing, on the costing, and which package will be best for you. In the meanwhile, I'll just fetch the newspaper of today. Right? I trust you have gone through this, and I think you will realize that the longer term a course you take, the better it is for you. This is my code at the bottom. So once you use this code, which is AD09, you can get a much better deal. You receive a flat 10% off on the classes. This is the newspaper, The Hindu of yesterday, which I'm gonna cover today. Right. So if you're done, if you have all understood the basic introduction on Unacademy, then I will take it on to the next slide and I will start with the meat of today's class, which is analyzing yesterday's newspaper. From tomorrow, things will be live. Tomorrow, I'll be taking tomorrow's paper itself. Right. Let's start from the beginning. The first piece of news is something that might concern a lot of us because, I mean, maybe not directly concerned, but in some way or the other, it is related. So, first of all, are you aware of this post called CAG? CAG. Let me just give you a little bit on the live chat window. CAG stands for Comptroller and Auditor General. Basically, the country's highest auditor. I think everybody knows what's an auditor. Auditor is somebody who checks the books of accounts. So, present CAG is Mr. GC Murmu, who is former Lieutenant Governor of JNK. Right, so this is the present comptroller and auditor general. So there is an office that the CAG holds. So CAG के ऑफिस में ये रिपोर्ट दिया है. Now मैं थोड़ा सा आपको background देता हूँ of the Rafale this thing. So Rafale, you know, the jet from France that we have purchased for military purposes. So Rafale has been produced by this French company called Dassault. Um, when this contract was first signed between the Indian and the French government, there was this joint agreement. There's something called a trade offs का मतलब है कि मैं आपको कुछ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दे रहा हूँ और आप as a compensation you will also help me. So Indian government gave the French company Dassault massive contract, but as part of the contract, the Dassault company is also supposed to produce a few planes on its own in France, but also supposed to train us and our scientists and our people so that we may develop these Rafale jets on our own in the future. Not just Rafale, but also a couple more jets, such as what we call the LCA. LCA stands for Light Combat Aircraft. ठीक है, ये भी मैं लिख देता हूँ. LCA का मतलब है Light Combat Aircraft. ठीक है, so we were supposed to be receiving knowledge transfer for this thing, which is part of the offset contract relating to the 60,000 crore deal for the 36 Rafale fighter jets. So since a part of the money has already been received by Dassault, so they wanted to. The idea is that by now these knowledge transfer as part of the offset contract should have taken place, but that however has not taken place. This is what the CAG has confirmed and also been confirmed by the DRDO. DRDO is the body which is supposed to receive the knowledge transfer. DRDO stands for Defense Research and Development Organization. As the name suggests, this is the body that does all the research and development for defense equipment in India. Not the final production, but the first prototype design, after which organizations such as HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, they do the rest of the stuff. Fair enough. Moving on, I had told you yesterday how the Supreme Court had been moved by Facebook India regarding Facebook's alleged role in the Delhi riots of February. So, Mr. Ajit Mohan, who is the Vice President and Managing Director of Facebook India, he had been summoned. He did not turn up on the first summons. Mm, so now the Supreme Court of India has given Facebook a reprieve that Facebook officials do not need to report to this Delhi Assembly panel, at least for now, and no meeting must be fixed by the Delhi Assembly for this. Day before yesterday saw the end of the monsoon session of the parliament, one of the shortest monsoon sessions ever, but also one of the most productive, although the opposition may say it wasn't productive, but productive from the side of several bills and several laws being cleared. Right, I'll just get myself some, tissues. Just give me a moment. सुबह सुबह थोड़ा सा I'll get fined by the middle in an hour's time. Anyway, right. So monsoon session did open, did finish as I told you. More than 3,000 cases, 3,700 plus cases reported in Delhi for COVID-19. The city of Kolkata is quite iconic in several ways, but one of the ways in which Kolkata remains iconic now, of course, it's a modern metropolis with all glitzy malls and massive roads. I was so impressed when I went there in 2017. The city has seen such a massive transformation the last couple of years. The roads are so well done. But if I look at the history of Kolkata, because it's such an old city, British era city, back when it was called Calcutta, it had one feature known as the tram. The tram still exists, but it is more of a heritage thing now. It is not so much of a practical usage. But back in the day, the tram was a very important communication medium. Kolkata is also a city which is very famous for its literary and its cultural heritage. So that's why one of the trams has actually been sort of separated from the main compartment. It is now a fixed one, but it is going to be transformed into an air-conditioned service, which will cover College Street. College Street is next to the Presidency College and several other colleges of the Calcutta University, and there that is the world's largest street market for books, both first hand as well as second hand. Right. So this tram is set to run through this area. The first trams were launched in 1837. They were electrified in 1900. Uh, right. Although the one at Presidency College started back in 1817, the main one in 1837, but the one around Presidency College started in 1817. The cyclone Amphan, which hit West Bengal and a good part of eastern India a couple of months back, that totally battered a lot of the tram system. Right, moving on to some of the local pages. There is a detailed study on how easy it is to get tested for COVID-19. Here are the stories from Delhi. So it's 330 COVID test centers in Delhi. Only 226 of them are mentioned on the government side. All the mohalla clinics in Delhi are not testing for the same. There are lots of mohalla clinics in Delhi, but all of them are not, uh, doing this thing, testing on this. The IIT Delhi has actually launched a new BTech program. It's a 4-year engineering program, BTech program, and the qualifying will be based on the JEE advanced exams this year itself. So those who clear the JEE advanced exam, they can actually go for this course. This is a course, it's a BTech in engineering and computational mechanics. This will be run by the applied mechanics department of the IIT Delhi. And this is really apt for people who wish to do a future master's or a PhD. So there will be new courses within this course. There'll be new modules such as on FEM, which is finite element method, and also on CFD, which is computational fluid dynamics. These are a couple of those things that will be uh, possible here. Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, the CM of Delhi, he has done a lot of praise for the IARI, which is the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, which has presented an innovative decomposer technique to deal with the stubble burning. Stubble burning is something which is a big problem in areas such as Punjab and Haryana, which leads to a lot of fires towards Delhi, and Delhi does get choked with pollution for much of the year. That is why for Delhi, it is in Delhi's interest, self-interest, as also the interest of other places to manage this stubble burning, which typically takes place during the transition season after the harvesting of the Kharif crop and the planting of the Rabi crop, which nowadays is just a few weeks. It is the transition period has reduced due to the multi-cropping system and due to several other rules as well. A 10 lakh rupee compensation has been announced by the South Delhi Municipal Corporation for those who are the kin of Corona warriors who have passed away. The CAIT, or the Confederation of All India Traders, they have written to the Prime Minister asking for special package to help traders during this difficult period on the economic ground. The Time magazine, which is of course one of the most renowned general reading magazines in the world, they come up every year with a list called the most influential people. So this year too, they have brought out the list of 100 most influential people of 2020. Among those on this list is the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. There's also Bollywood actor Ayushman Khurrana. But very interestingly, one of those who has been mentioned is there was the Shaheen Bagh protest in Delhi by lots of women protesting against the CA and NRC. So one of those ladies, she's an 82-year-old woman called Miss Bilkis. She has also been named within this list. She's been called here as Shaheen Bagh Dadi, Dadi as in grandmother. Right. The Chief Minister of Punjab, Mr. Captain Amrinder Singh, he has written to the centre urging for steady supply of oxygen. Because oxygen is one of the medical oxygen is required during these COVID-19 treatment in the hospital. So he wants constant round the clock supply for this because that is something which is needed now. Right. I think I had told you earlier that Mizoram became the first state in India to conduct any elections of any kind post the COVID-19 pandemic was declared and the ensuing lockdowns. This was the local municipal and panchayat elections that were conducted in Mizoram because it's a tribal dominated state. There's something called a tribal council. So those elections are they are subsumed within the panchayat elections. Now that these tribal council elections have been held, there is also hope among some of the other states to do the same. Bodoland, which is now also formed a tribal council, BTC, they are also looking at an election. The BTC is looking to conduct its tribal council elections. So one of the dominant parties in the Bodo region, which is the BPF, or the Bodoland People's Front, they are among the leading parties to contest. You also have the BJP, of course, which is in power in the state, and of course in the opposition parties such as the Congress and the AIUDF. They are also looking at uh, this thing. I had told you earlier about Mr. Akhil Gogoi, who was one of the chief protesters during the anti-CA protests in Assam. He has also founded his own party. They might contest on these elections as well, though that is not confirmed. The main target is next year's assembly polls. Right, there is much flooding in Maharashtra going on. So there are five NDRF or National Disaster Relief Response Fund, which is looking at the force rather, which is being stationed here. They are parked near the state, so that if there is any issue. Moving on, I've now come to the editorial page. There's one article on people who were excluded from the NRC and what they are doing now to in case they are to get back their citizenship. There is also an article on female leadership. This is by Mr. Bhaskar Datta, who's a professor at the Ashoka University, and he does say that we humans have a lot of inherent biases and perceptions about the effectiveness of women in roles of authority. And in fact, he has given examples of, and I think I have also said this before in my classes, how countries that were led by women during the COVID-19 pandemic, they have emerged as the biggest winners, as some of those who performed the best during this thing. Countries such as Germany, Taiwan, and New Zealand. I'll also add Finland to this list of countries that have taken good care. I think Denmark as well, which have done well during this pandemic. So he's also spoken about universal suffrage, which India has been. India was one of the first countries which gave suffrage right at the beginning. We never had any separate this thing. We had universal suffrage from day one. That was a commendable thing. But right now, so he's also spoken how there are very few women leaders in politics as well right now. There's only one female chief minister right now, which is Miss Mamta Banerjee in West Bengal. Uh, uh, Only 14% of the total strength of the Lok Sabha is women, which is actually we are 143rd among 192 countries in terms of parliamentary representation of women. Tiny Rwanda, an African backward African country, comes out on top, where 60% of the seats in the lower house are occupied by women. There was also something called the Women's Bill, which has been tabled several times but never really passed the test. So the writer feels that now is probably the time that it needs to be fully implemented. I'll just connect the charger. Right, now it will work. It will work well now. Right. There's another article by there's another article on the mental health needs of the homeless, and the writers are, one of them is Miss Vandana Gopikumar, the other is J. Radhakrishnan. So Miss Vandana Gopikumar, she's the co-founder of the Banyan and the Banyan Academy of Leadership in Mental Health, while the other person, Mr. J. Radhakrishnan, he is Principal Secretary of the Department of Health and Family Welfare, the government of Tamil Nadu. So there is a lot of data from the state of Tamil Nadu here, but again, this can be widely extrapolated for the rest of the country as well. The writers say that there are a couple of million people right now who are homeless in India, and out of them, about a third of them, as per certain data, are likely to have some form of mental illness. Mental illness is a common reason why many people get evicted out of their homes. And that is why they become homeless. And in many cases, they may not have had earlier strong symptoms of mental health, but because of being homeless, that leads to a lot of psychological issues, and so they became. They had these psychological problems later on. We do have ECRCs, or emergency care and recovery centers, the Department of Health as part of the National Health Mission, and also the Institute of Mental Health, which she runs in Chennai. These do take care of these issues, but then the work is rather less. The writers feel that every district needs to have a district mental health program. There is one in place right now, but this does need to be further widened. The scope needs to be widened. Right. There's one article where they are debating whether college campuses should be unlocked, because a lot of countries have experienced that the moment college campuses have been opened, there has been a surge in the number of COVID-19 cases. So whether India should go for it like the UGC wants, or whether we should hold on for a bit more. There's also this thing that the methodology of test, trace, isolate has to be followed really rigorously in colleges to ensure it does take place. There's an article on politics. It's known as the BJP's widening social base. Securing largely upper caste and OBC alliances has propelled the BJP to great heights and has also impacted Dalit politics. This is written by Mr. Vikas Pathak, who teaches at the Asian College of Journalism in Chennai. In this article, he speaks about how the BJP has been such a successful political party due to its massive social expansion. Initially there was this image of the BJP as a very upper caste party, and if you take most of the 1990s for instance, that's when the Mandir Mandal politics came up. A lot of the parties which were led by the non-upper caste, they did extremely well. Like in Uttar Pradesh you had the BSP and the SP, in Bihar you had the RJD, you had the Paswans led LJP, which did very well. That discourse has changed now quite a bit. The parties which rely on a caste formula alone, they don't seem to be doing very well, such as the SP BSP combined during the last elections. That's because the BJP has taken into many parties, many of the social groups which are there, and several of the Dalit parties too have become either part of BJP's alliance, such as the LJP in Bihar, or they have become sort of friendly with them in spite of being on the technically on the opposition, like the BSP is in Uttar Pradesh, or the VBA, Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi in Maharashtra. So that is where the parties has expanded massively. A lot of Dalits are voting for them. Right, moving further on. This is a sad case of the union minister, Shri Suresh Angadi, who was Minister of State for Railways. He is a four-time MP from Karnataka. Um, he passed away recently. So he was in fact an MP from Belgaum. All these four times he was MP from Belgaum, which is in the north of Karnataka, near the Maharashtra border. So he has passed away. Also passed away has been this really successful cricketer from Australia, Mr. Dean Jones. He was a swashbuckling, aggressive batsman who won the Cricket World Cup in 1992 with Australia. Later on, he became a coach for a while, but really made his name as a commentator. In fact, he was commenting just the day before on the IPL, and yesterday we got this sad news of his heart attack, and he passed away suddenly in the middle of the IPL where he was commenting. So, really, these two are rather sad cases. The Chief Minister of Kerala, Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan, he might move Supreme Court against the recent farm bills. His team has announced. Meanwhile, the APMC bill, which is Agricultural Produce Marketing Regulation and Development Amendment Bill 2020, that has been tabled on the Assembly in Karnataka for further scrutiny. The Board of Intermediate Education says that the decision on 30% syllabus reduction is not yet 100% confirmed. The Agriculture Minister of Kerala, Mr. V.S. Sunil Kumar, he has also tested positive for COVID-19. May he get well very soon. The Lok Sabha has also adjourned. I told you about the Rajya Sabha's monsoon session. The Lok Sabha has also adjourned. Several bills were passed in the two assemblies in the two houses. In fact, of Parliament, the last day of the Rajya Sabha saw a record 8 bills passed. I'll just read out to you these 8 bills. One of them is the FCR amendment. I spoke to you earlier about this, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act Amendment 2020. This law was first introduced sometime in the I think 1970s, 1976, and then it was amended in 2010 by the UPA government. 1976, remember, is when India was under emergency, and Ms. Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. 2010, of course, was when the UPA 2 government was in power, and now, of course, it is the NDA government which is in power. So, FCRA that has been passed, the FCR amendment. The other is the Jammu and Kashmir Official Languages Bill 2020. This too I have discussed with you guys. So earlier, Urdu and English were the only two official languages. Now, Hindi, Kashmiri, and Dogri have also been added to this list. Then there is the bilateral netting of qualified financial contracts 2020, the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020 as part of the labor reforms, the Industrial Relations Code 2020, the Code on Social Security 2020. All these were the labor laws which were also passed amidst both the houses in spite of much boycott. There are also the two more bills. One of them is the Appropriation Bill number 3, 2020, and the Appropriation Bill number 4, 2020. So what were these? So there were four codes. These three bills have actually merged 25 laws in total. I've told you about these new labor laws. You may write them down. One of them is the Industrial Relations Code 2020. There's the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020 and the Social Security Code 2020. If you know, please एक बार देख लीजिए in detail, especially those who are HR aspirants, those who are looking at colleges like TIS or XLRI or maybe SCHMR, SCMHRD. Please go through all of this because for HR professionals, you need to know IR. IR is Industrial Relations. Right, there's another report by the CAG. I had told you about the CAG at the start of this class. There's a reason I'm going through CAG in such detail because there are a number of stories pertaining to that post. So the CAG has confirmed that around 40% of the toilets in government schools are actually non-existent, while over 1.4 lakh of them were built by the CPSEs. What do CPSEs stand for? These are the Central Public Sector Enterprises, which were actually roped in to bridge the gap over a 1 year period because there was a massive gap in the number which were planned and which were actually built. So these organizations were roped in and they seem to have done a commendable job. However, many of these toilets seem to be only on paper. So around 70% did not have running water facilities in the toilets, while 75% of them were not being maintained hygienically. This is part of the Swachh Vidyalaya Abhiyan, which was introduced by the Human Resource Development Ministry in September 2014 and is part of the Right to Education Act's mandate that all schools will have separate toilets for boys and girls. Mm, so what exactly has taken place? I'll tell you. There are 10.8 lakh government schools in the country. More than 1.4 lakh toilets were built by these. However, so there was a sample survey, a physical survey of almost 3,000 toilets, 2,695 to be precise, which was done over 15 states. Within that samples, it has been identified that 83 were not even constructed. 200 were reported to be constructed but were there only on paper. They were actually non-existent. 86 of them were only partially constructed, so not even fully done. 691 toilets were not found to be in use, mainly due to lack of running water, lack of cleaning arrangement, or damages to the toilet. So in total, if we add all of this number, 40% were somehow not working. And in fact, out of the 1,967, which is almost 2,000 co-educational schools surveyed, 99 schools had no functional toilets at all, while 436 had only one functional toilet, meaning that the objective of having separate toilets for girls and boys was not being met. Right? In 27% of the schools, that was not being met. The Prime Minister of India spoke to the chief ministers of the seven states which are the worst affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, which is, I think, the seven states were mentioned here: Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Delhi, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and I think it was Punjab. This graph also shows Kerala, Odisha, and West Bengal as three more which were badly affected. So he has mentioned that chief ministers can now call lockdowns. We now need a micro containment plan so that there is minimum disruption to life. Mm, right, so that because we don't want to hurt the overall economic scenario, but only whatever is needed, that's all, not more than that. Quality containers have been set aside for moving of liquid oxygen. Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, has banned flights from India. Also, few other countries like Argentina also they have banned. This is because the number of cases have been rising in India. Meanwhile, South Korea has imposed certain restrictions on categories of Indian visa holders, which means that around 30 flights operated by the Air India group, two of them by Air India, 28 of them by the Air India Express, they will now be affected. Even Indigo and SpiceJet will be cancelling their chartered flights. There's a report on the sport of surfing. I don't know if you guys are aware of surfing. Surfing, of course, you need a surfboard, and this is something which is done on the ocean, in the seas. And in India, there are several circuits which are ideal for surfing. One of them is Puri, which is in the state of Odisha, not far from West Bengal. Puri is actually. So that is on the Bay of Bengal. In fact, the Bay of Bengal is generally better than the Arabian Sea when it comes to surfing. So sticking with the Bay of Bengal, there is also Tamil Nadu. The state of Tamil Nadu, which is also there on the Bay of Bengal. So there is a particular East Coast road in that state, and we are right now into the peak, the middle of the surfing season. The surfing season will disappear with the onset of winter because the waters get real cold, but now is the peak period. So whatever is left of the surfing season, most of it was lost due to the various lockdowns, but now that the things have somewhat economic activity has somewhat resumed, the idea is that let it is that let's salvage whatever is left of the season. In fact, there's a very funny picture given here where a girl is surfing the internet while sitting next to the real surf. So she's using her laptop right next to the surf, so surfing the internet next to the surfing spot. So a lot of these digital nomads have also made their way to this place. The digital nomads, they are people who travel the world for Yeah, digital nomads are people who travel, whose entire work is related to computers and who don't have a fixed specific office, even if they do have one, but they keep traveling the whole year and they can actually work anywhere, just like a nomad, except that in this case they are working digitally. There is this weekly article by Mr. Abhishek Gulshan. He writes every week on this day, which is on Thursday, on wildlife. So this week again he has written on a particular butterfly known as the robber fly, which kills its prey by inserting its proboscis. The robber fly is literally named a robber fly because it is actually a robber. It robs the lives of other insects. That's how it actually survives. It even has mustaches, which are not there for only ornamental purposes, but it is actually to save itself against the defensive attacks of its prey. There are more than 700,000 species which are described under the broader family of Aslidae, which includes the robber flies. The robber flies are present in the Aravali Biodiversity Park in large numbers, which is in Gurugram, Haryana. There's a particular robber fly, especially. Mm, a lot of these robber flies, of course, everyone does get hunted eventually. So robber flies get hunted by the by even bigger dragonflies. So moving on to the international pages, China has made a really significant announcement. I think this is something which is significant for all of us. I'm not talking of border issues. I'm actually talking of climate change, something which affects the whole planet. So China has decided to go carbon neutral by 2060. As per the Paris Agreement, by 2030, most of the countries had to go on a war footing to go carbon neutral, but that's not going to take place in China. They had already confirmed. In fact, by 2030, they will actually peak their emissions. After that, it will start sliding. So by 2060, China is confident it can be it can be carbon neutral. This thing about 2030 peaking has also been confirmed by somebody from Global Energy Monitor, which is a San Francisco-based environmental group. They say that there are about 135 gigawatts of coal power capacity either permitted or under construction already in China. So, in fact, China has gone on to blame USA for obstructing the global fight against carbon emissions. There's an organization called G4. I don't know if you're aware of this organization. Let me just write out to you the name of this organization and see if you guys are aware. Um, okay, so I'll give you a minute, think over this and write on this. If you are live, then write it on the live YouTube chat. If you're not live, then take a notebook and write it down and just see if you know what exactly is this. Let me see what are the responses you have given me. Okay, fair enough. So let me just write down what exactly does G4 stand for. G always means group of. Okay, so G का मतलब है group. So G4 stands for four countries. I'll start with India, Brazil, Germany, and Japan. What's common between these four countries? Even if you don't know what's G4, that's fine. But any idea what could be common between kaha India, kaha Brazil, Germany, Japan? There's no geographical connection. There's no economic connection either. Germany and Japan are first world developed countries. India and Brazil are among the emerging nations which are part of BRICS. Two are in Asia, one in South America, one in Europe. Even in terms of language, one is Portuguese speaking, one is Japanese speaking, one is German speaking, another is multilingual. Um so we don't even have language similarity. What is it that unites? So these four, let me just write it down. G4 countries want permanent seat. So it's a purely political body. It has no economic ties. One permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council in addition to the P5 nations. Which were the P5? USA, UK, Russia, France, and China. Basically, the five winners of the Second World War. So these four countries want a permanent seat, and they support each other's lobby as part of that. So India supports Japan, and vice versa. Japan starts supports Germany, Germany, Brazil, Brazil, India. So all four of them support each other. So Germany and Japan were the two biggest aggressors of the Second World War, as per the P5, which is why they were not included. India and Brazil were not strong enough back then, which is why they were not included. But now it's time. These two countries are much stronger. So now these four countries wish to be a part of the same. Right? Let's move on further then. Okay, so now the G4 countries, because very recently we had the 75th anniversary UN at the UN 75 we celebrated recently. So the G4 has once again stepped up its claims of a permanent seat at the UNSC. They want time-bound reform of the same. There is further political chaos in Malaysia. In 2018, there was a hung parliament which led to several parties combining together to form government, but that fell in 2020. The one which was led by Mahathir Mohamad, the 93-year-old world's oldest elected leader. Um, After that, there was Muhyiddin Yassin from an opposition party which formed government, but now another opposition leader, which is Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, who's actually the lead chief opposition leader, he has stressed that he has got the numbers to form the government once again. Fair enough. Alexei Navalny, the opponent to Vladimir Putin, who was recuperating in Berlin after alleged food poisoning, he has been released from the hospital. So he's now being treated, uh, just outside that. A report from the International Labour Organizations states that workers in total lost $3.5 trillion in wages due to the pandemic. 500 million full-time jobs were lost during this period, as mentioned by the ILO chief, Mr. Guy Ryder, with a 5.5% contraction of global GDP. The Belarus president Alexander Lukashenko, who's been facing a lot of protests home, has been formally sworn in for yet another term, his sixth consecutive term. I told you yesterday about a few hundred whales being trapped in sandbars of the Australian state of Tasmania's coastline. Most of them, however, have not survived. 380 whales have been dead in what is called a mass stranding. A crew of 60 conservationists did try with the skilled volunteers to rescue them. Some of them did get rescued, but most of them were not. Only 50 odd have been saved. So these were stuck in the Macquarie harbor of Tasmania. Okay, moving on to the business pages. I've been speaking about IPO several times. So another IPO has taken place, which has been subscribed 47 times. That's CAMS, which stands for Computer Age Management Services. It has been bid 46.85 times more than what it was originally planned out. The Manali Petrochemicals Limited, or MPL, is going to triple the propylene glycol output capacity. There will be a total additional investment of 150 crores, as confirmed by Mr. Ashwin Mutia, who's the chairperson of the MPL, or Manali Petrochemicals Limited. The CAG, once again in the news, Comptroller Auditor General has wrapped the DGH, or the Director General of Hydrocarbons, as well as the Union Ministry for Petroleum and Natural Gas, for failing to collect dues worth 3,600 crore rupees from contractors who relinquished block allocated them. So there were contractors who were allocated blocks for exploration, but they left in between. But then, even then, they are supposed to pay the dues because it's not the government's fault that they did not complete the work. So they have to pay this amount. 3,600 crore worth is pending, which the CAG has demanded for these bodies, DGH and the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. The CEO of Warburg Pincus, Mr. Charles K, he has, in a discussion said that India must focus on reforms because high growth is no longer possible. So rather make use of this low growth period to work out major reforms. A major kitchenware brand, which is TTK Prestige, led by Shri TT Jagannathan, who's the chairperson, they have decided to foray into the tableware market, which is, of course, lucrative. Now that people are not venturing out much, people are not eating out much, not visiting offices, there's a lot of work from home. So several people are actually working from home. So thus things like kitchenware and tableware have actually risen in demand because people are more conscious of better food at home. They have more time to decorate their homes or buy good stuff. A lot of people were also having a few meals outside. Even they have started cooking and eating at home more, which is what is leading to expansion in this particular sector. So it's always good whenever a sector is dying out, when something else emerges. This is something which is, so many sectors are in the fear of really struggling. So from the kitchen, they will be entering the dining room, and they are making hoping for sales worth 50 crore rupees over the next 2 years alone. And in fact, Mr. Jagannathan believes that a kitchenware brand should not struggle much to reach the dinner table because it's pretty much part of the same broader family. There was this recent poll among citizens as well as among MSMEs and startups. Most of them are not keen on sharing non-personal data, so they do not want to go for a non-personal data policy. There's an infrastructure company called Likhita Infra who have also were also planning an IPO. They have set a band of between 117 to 120 crore rupees for the same. I had told you right at the beginning, about 2 months back, when I started with my newspaper sessions towards the end of August, about not August, sorry, about end of July, regarding Toyota company to release a new compact SUV. And just before Diwali or around Dashera, they have now come out with a proper design. The Toyota Kirloskar Motor Group, or the TTM, which is TKM, which is the Indian subsidiary of the Toyota Group. They are in partnership with Maharashtra-based Kirloskar. They have set up a new compact SUV called the Urban Cruiser, which has been priced at between 8.4 to 11.3 lakhs for ex-showroom prices of Delhi. It has a fuel efficiency of around 17 kilometers per liter, which is pretty good for an SUV, and 18.76 for automatic transmission. Right, the MD of TKM, Mr. Masakazu Yoshimura, who's a Japanese national, he says, and I'm going to quote, our entry into compact SUVs has come at a time when the segment has gained much popularity. That's amazing. Uh, there's a device after sales management platform called Servify. They have raised $23 million as part of its Series C funding to boost global operations. The CAG, once again in the news, they also believe that the Railway Board, part of the Ministry of Railways, has perhaps dressed up figures for the financial year 2018-19. So there needs to be a revision on that. Uday Kotak, who's associated with the Kotak Mahindra Bank, he has got extension as chairperson of the much beleaguered organization ILNFS, which has been facing collapse and a mountain of debt. So that, of course, he does continue to chair. Mercedes Benz, we just spoke about Toyota's compact SUV. Mercedes Benz, however, on the other end of the scale, they do luxury cars. So they have come up with a new SUV. It's not a compact SUV, but a full-fledged SUV. It's called Coupe. So this will be launched for a showroom price of 1.2 crores. So as I said, it's completely the other segment. Uh, It replaces the AMG 43 Coupe in India. This one is the number 53, as it's called. The Mercedes-Benz company has informed, and I'm gonna quote, the vehicle combines sporty elegance and powerful performance with good off-road capabilities. Off-roading is increasingly becoming quite popular in India, especially in some of the bigger cities. So just outside, people do go for off-roading. Right, I'll move to the sports page. Kolkata Knight Riders badly lost their first IPL game to the Mumbai Indians. Rohit Sharma scoring a blitzkrieg 80. While on the bowling front, Jasprit Bumrah and Pattinson, they continued, and Trent Bolt and Chahar, they all picked up 2 wickets each. Kieran Pollard, meanwhile, played his 150th IPL game, so that's a record in the IPL. Aaron Finch, the Australian batsman, he says that he's ready to play anywhere in the team at any order, whatever the role the team wants. He plays, of course, for the RCB, the Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Sunrisers Hyderabad franchisee, their player, the all-rounder, Australian all-rounder Mitchell Marsh, he has been sidelined for the rest of the tournament, will not be able to play, which is why West Indies' Jason Holder has been roped in as his replacement. He's the captain of West Indies, the son of former Test cricketer Roland Holder. There's also an article on Sanju Samson. He scored a blitzkrieg 74 of 32 balls a couple of days back. And so that innings is being analyzed by several experts. Billy Donovan has been appointed as the new coach of the Chicago Bulls NBA team. The first ever Bhutanese coach of an Indian football team has also been announced in the I League. Sudeva FC, which will make its I League debut this year, they will be having Mr. Chencho Dorji as its coach. He'll be the first ever Bhutanese for a top level sports team in India. The shocking news from the world of football transfers. Barcelona Football Club has been offloading players left, right, and center because of a summer clear out. They are massively in debt, so they want to reduce the wage bill, but they also want to reduce the average age of the side, so they are selling off a lot of players. And for very less money, that's surprising. Ivan Rakitic, the Croatian midfielder, already sold to Sevilla. Then Arturo Vidal, the Chilean midfielder, sold to Inter Milan. Luis Suarez's transfer to Atletico Madrid has also been confirmed, sold for peanuts literally. But I think the most shocking transfer of Barcelona this summer has been that of Nelson Semedo, the Portuguese fullback. He's been sold for what, 27 million or some figure like that. Yeah, around 27 37 million pounds, which is a high figure, but still a player of his quality. He's only 26 years old, been with the club for 4 years. He could have easily served them another 5 6 years. The peak of his physical parts. I just could not understand why they are selling him. I know a lot of matches last season, Sergio Roberto was preferred at right back, but I always feel that Sergio Roberto is more of a midfielder. Semedo is signing for Wolverhampton Wanderers in England, who meanwhile sold Jota a few days back. So they had money, and Wolves, of course, has a large Portuguese contingent: Rui Patricio, Joao Moutinho, Ruben Neves, um, and of course the new signing Fabio Silva. They also have the forwards Pedro Nito, and one more striker. I can't just recall his name. Villagre or somebody. The coach as well, Nuno Espirito Sancho, is Portuguese. So lots of Portuguese players. Helder Costa has been sold, but they still have Portuguese players. So I think he's gonna gel very well. Pakistan, meanwhile, has agreed to tour sorry, the other way. Zimbabwe has agreed to tour Pakistan. The Zimbabwean government has given them the permission. Pakistan, since 2009, no team toured Pakistan for about a decade. Until last year, Zimbabwe traveled. So this year, again, Zimbabwe will travel for 3 one-day internationals and 3 2020 matches. They will all be played within a bio bubble. Um, Football transfers again. Alvaro Morata. I think Alvaro Morata has made a habit of comebacks, coming by returning to a club. So just look at his career. He started with Real Madrid as a kid, moved to Juventus. Fair enough. Then he came back to Real Madrid. So sort of a homecoming. That was the first. Then he moved to Chelsea, and from Chelsea he comes back to Madrid, although not for Real, but for Real's crosstown rivals Atletico. Now he's again going to Juventus. So having already come back twice to Madrid, he's now coming back to Turin as well. So I think he's made a habit of these returning homes. Home returns is something he probably loves. He's now 27, needs to settle in, I think, at one team. He's played for all top clubs: Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, Juventus. So a lot of talent, but he needs to be a better finisher. And who knows, this year could be. I think I have a feeling Morata and Ronaldo will gel in very well, because Morata is a very good creator, forward creator. Ronaldo will thrive with a partner like him. They've played earlier, of course, for Real Madrid as well. Mm, right. Bayern Munich is set to play the UEFA Super Cup, which I think they did play last night. They defeated Sevilla 2-1. Mm, Now, UEFA, which is the Union of European Football Associations, the regulatory body for football in Europe, they have created a list of the best players in European football leagues last season. Two of them are Bayern Munich players: the German goalkeeper Manuel Neuer and the Polish striker Robert Lewandowski. There's also the Belgian midfielder Kevin De Bruyne, who plays for Manchester City. These three have been nominated for the prize. I personally hope and I am expecting Robert Lewandowski to not just win it, to also win the Ballon d'Or. Although the Ballon d'Or, I think, has been cancelled this year. I'm not sure of that, but I hope it is restored and I hope he wins the Ballon d'Or and the FIFA prize. I was hoping for him last year as well. He made a massive contribution to to Bayern's Bundesliga victory, and I think he can do something likewise. He has done brilliantly this year as well. He tends to be getting better and better with age, a lot like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who says he's like Benjamin Button. So I'm done with the Hindu. I'll quickly take you through the Times of India for some of the important stories. Do write to me whatever are your doubts. Let me just get that in the meanwhile. Right. So doing the Times of India now. There is an ethical code for pharmaceutical companies which is set to be released. However, the Chemicals Minister, Shri D.V. Sadanand Gowda, who's an BJP MP from Karnataka, his team is working out the uniform code for pharmaceutical marketing practices. But the final decision has not come out. There has been a flip flop from the various sides. I was telling you how Saudi has banned flights from India, and I told you the two more countries, Argentina and Brazil, both of course from South America. The groundwater level in Gurugram has reduced by 3 meters in the last 2 years, as confirmed by a certain report. Meanwhile, there is a report from the Potters Colony in Delhi. Mm, So a couple of names have been mentioned, and potters usually do their best business around the time of Diwali and Dashera. However, there seems to be no proverbial genie in their lamps this year, because shall we say, the demand has been exceedingly low due to several economic factors, due to artificial, lights and other alternatives as well. So, in fact, there has also been some government orders against them using furnaces, because these furnaces are polluting, and that is where they are facing a lot of trouble. Within the state of Haryana, Palwal has the best recovery rate at 90.8%, followed by Faridabad at 90.1%. Charki Dadri is on the other side at the lowest at 58.5%. For positivity rate, Charki Dadri also has the lowest positivity rate. That's a good thing, with only 1.9%. Nu has only 2.2%. Panipat has the highest positivity rate at 10.4%, followed by Karnal at 10%. So there is this report that the grey line of the Delhi Metro will reach the Haryana border by the month of May 2021. This is the Dwarka Najafgarh section, which has just three sections, which has just three stations right now, but that is set to expand and will reach up to what is called the Dhansa stand. This has been confirmed by the executive director of the DMRC, Mr. Anuj Dayal, who handles corporate communications. The exact spot in Haryana has not really been confirmed as yet, but that is definitely set to take place. So, Turkey's leader, Mr. Erdogan, had raised the issue of the Jammu and Kashmir Article 370 being removed at the recent United Nations General Assembly, but he has been told to not interfere in other countries' internal issues. Turkey itself has a lot of problems, so India says that he might as well, do something within his the state. The state of West Bengal, which was not initially a signatory to the PM Kisan scheme, has now agreed to be part of this. This was the last state which to be included in this. They were refusing because a lot of times state governments have their own schemes, so they sort of tend to clash. So now West Bengal has agreed on this. There is also this entire chain which is being given of how COVID vaccine will finally reach people like us. There are cold chains, there are sterile glass vials, there's an order of distribution, and how Indian strategy will work. There's also this report on rich hoarders and how they will do. Chennai and Bengaluru have the cleanest air during the lockdowns. Delhi, however, is not doing too well. Several auto companies are looking at festive launches. Zomato, meanwhile, has confirmed that food delivery has gone back to nearly pre-COVID levels. Delhi and Mumbai, it is now at 95%. Overall numbers are 85% of pre-COVID, and it was 75% in August. Now it's 85%, and the figure is 95% in Delhi and Mumbai, 80% in Chennai and Bengaluru. Some cities are doing exceptionally well, the likes of Kolkata, for instance. Kolkata and some smaller tier 2 cities like Patna, Jamshedpur, Ranchi, and Siliguri, which is also in West Bengal, they have recovered completely and are exceeding pre COVID levels. So, Kolkata is actually the biggest city, which is exceeding the levels. Some of the QSR restaurants like McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and KFC have done better from the pandemic than dining restaurants because a sizable part of their revenue is dependent on takeaway. So those which were predominantly based on dining, they are the ones which are suffering a bit more. So that was it basically. I'm done with yesterday's newspaper. Hope you enjoyed the session. Tomorrow I'll be back live. Tomorrow will be session for tomorrow itself. So till then, thank you all so much. Wonderful interacting with you. Okay, I'll just keep the session open for a couple of minutes. उसके पहले मैं आपको अपना कोड शेयर कर लेता हूँ 8009. You know the drill, how it works. You like, share, subscribe, spread the word, you comment. But subscribe is of course something. I've told you about our channel. So let's crack management exams. So इसको explore करो. These are called DIY, do it yourself. The more you explore yourself, the better you will get to learn. So I'm going to keep the session open for a couple of minutes so that you can come up with any doubts and queries that you guys may have. Tottenham Hotspurs, the football club from North London, they are being linked with a massive move for a centre back, Milan Skriniar, who plays for Inter Milan. He's a Slovakian defender. I think that will be a tremendous signing if it does. I don't know how it's gonna work. So let's see. A lot of transfer speculation in football right now. Manchester United looking to sign Alex Telles, the Brazilian left back who plays for FC Porto. Right, I think we can wrap up now. Thank you so much, guys. Was wonderful interacting with you all. So see you very soon. Take care till then. Do let us if there any. I will also go through your comments if you write later on. क्योंकि I do read the comments of students after the class. I do keep track of that as well. So वो मैं देख लूँगा. Till then, thank you everyone.